Hi, we're Gary and Kim Evans. We are wedding photographers and photography educators based just outside of Toronto, Canada. And you are listening to the Workflow Podcast.
Gary and Kim, this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to dive into your workflows in this conversation, and specifically because, well, for a couple of reasons. One, because you're an awesome couple, and two, because you photograph weddings, but you also have a niche in the wedding space that you also teach at your workshops and whatnot. And it's not a very common thing that we're going to be talking about. And that's what I'm really excited about, because niches can really do a lot for individual photographers or teams that most people, they don't give enough attention to it. And so I'm happy that here on the show we can give that some attention. So with that, welcome to Workflows. I'm excited about this. Excited to talk to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're excited to be here.
Happy to be here.
So let's get right into it. One thing going well in your workflows throughout your businesses, because you do have multiple businesses as part of your brand. What is one thing going well?
I think one thing that's going well for us is managing how much we have going on and using kind of each one of our little niches or whatever that is, kind of to balance out the others. And kind of, we're so used to now sort of the formats that we work with and really making these formulas that we can repeat as much as we can. So I feel like we're in a good space to always kind of be adding to what we want to do, and there's always space there for it. So, the more efficient and the more, using kind of and setting yourself up with a formula for us is what really works the best. And so that we can kind of rinse and repeat those things and they get easier. And then that gives us space to work on, new projects or kind of the education side, which we're really passionate about.
The one thing we're pretty good at as a couple is trying not to let what we're doing overlap. So we each have our own lanes that we stay in, and if it does overlap, which is generally me trying to overlap into Kim's stuff, I quickly get slapped back into my own lane. So yeah, it's we're a little bit different because we are a couple that work the business together, and it's just not duplicating effort. It's knowing what you're good at and sticking to what you're good at. So
there's not a lot of projects that we work on the same part of the project at the same time. Yep. We each kind of know what the strengths are that we bring to the table. So we divide those pieces up. So I think for us, because we're both competitive, like it gives us each parts of our business that we can champion and we can both win, but like win over, we can win separately. So you kind of, we know we need that, to keep our passions up and stuff. So that's kind of how we run our business. But I think like managing everything is definitely winning for us right now.
I think when it comes to having different niches throughout your business, there's going to be some workflow overlaps and some workflows that diverge from the other in different ways, right? Like you might have, for example, one method to culling headshots that might be different than culling weddings, right? Because they're very different things. However, you might have an editing style that's the same for full weddings versus pop-up weddings, right? So there's some parts of a workflow that could overlap and there's basically no difference. And then there's some, like the CRM part, the emails you send could be a different flow and things like that will be different across. With that said, I'm wondering if you could quickly share for everybody who doesn't know your brand overall, the different parts of your business that you have, the different niches and education that you have, so that everybody can understand truly what's on your plate.
Yeah, absolutely. So
hang on.
We have lots of fingers. So We do obviously have like a traditional photography studio that is full service with printing and albums. And for our area, we're sort of in the top end where we are. So those are generally, let's say, 10-hour traditional weddings with albums and engagement sessions and that sort of hand-holding that comes with it. Then we have in another brand, our Popup weddings, which basically our Popup weddings are like if you sold spaces in a styled shoot for couples to actually turn up and get married instead of having models come in. We have that, so we can marry 7 couples in a day in one setup where we just have smaller groups. They're groups of 20 people. We provide the officiant, the design, so the setup. Gary will shoot and do a couple session with them. And so it's sort of like it's not like a micro wedding, but it is a smaller scale wedding. We always kind of, it's between going to City Hall and like a big wedding. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of that space that is really underserved in the middle where, because multiple couples are using the same space, that obviously you're looking at volumes and almost like a mini session, right? Like your profitability increases the more people you can do. So that is our pop-up weddings. We probably do between 15 and 20 dates of those a year. So dates times 7. And so through most of our warmer season here. So we're in Canada. So we tend to go May through the end of October is really our wedding season here. So we'll do those pop-up wedding dates. When we first started those, it used to be, we started them as kind of like a creative outlet and to kind of serve that sort of middle, I guess. And we used it to kind of create wedding dates in the spaces where our traditional photography, you always have that one date that you're like, this is a peak date and it's weird and no one's booking it. And we were like, well, we can create something to monetize that date.
Yeah, we would normally fill, previously, going back a number of years, the dates would be filled with your normal weddings, your traditional 10-hour weddings that Kim and I would go and shoot together. And then Kim had this concept to fill in the dates, and we thought, oh, it's a good idea. We'll give it a go. And it fulfills Kim's creative desire to, make something, because she was a former wedding decorator and florist. And so she's always has that creative energy. And if she's not, then I don't know, you just need that outlet. And you came up with this concept, and we were like, oh, we'll give it a go. And
so now, like,
and it's done really well.
How, evaluating, we kind of took a second to be like, okay, this is going well and this is going well. And, looking at how much we can make on each date, the pop-ups won by about 3 times. So now what we do is we look at the date, we pick out our peak dates that we want to offer pop-ups, so that obviously we have to sell them, so it's easier to sell. And then the rest of the dates that are left are open for traditional couples. So it kind of really flip-flopped with how popular they became, and, that we really enjoyed doing it. It is very formulaic, so it does it's very like we know exactly what to do at each point, and it is very plug and play for us now. So that kind of was a bit of a flip-flop. We also, coming into Christmas time now, we do Santa sessions. So our Santa experience is really 4 big sets in our studio. The kids come in for 20 minutes. We have an amazing Santa who's like real bearded. He's just the sweetest. Like, he's the most like the Miracle on 34th Street Santa, where he literally will.
I mean, it's not Gary.
No,
sorry.
No, it's not Gary.
No,
It's not Gary.
It's Santa Dave. I've got a few more years yet until I'll become a Santa. So.
He'll sing lullabies to the babies. Like, it's just unreal. So we do that, and then it's just the kids coming in and just interacting with him and playing and jumping on the bed, and we have fake snow, and so it's like full on Christmas sessions with like. Right after they're done, they do a culling and IPS session, and then choose what they want to buy right then and there, and then off they go.
Nice. Yeah. Nice.
So once kind of Christmas is done, we usually like lock the door of the studio and run for like a couple weeks and just try not to. We're pretty well kitted out.
That's it. And then on top of that, we decided to throw in some international photography retreats because we just weren't busy enough.
Right.
We thought we would just do something else. And so for the last two that we've had, we did one in France, and then this year we did Italy, and then we have Tulum coming up in February, and then July 2026 we have one in the UK. So we have that on our plate as well.
And those are, I think, I mean, as far as what we really, I think they're just so fun and we get to go places, but it's also, we get to care for and kind of put as much into photographers that are coming as we do our clients. And so that is such a fun experience to surprise a group of photographers by taking them for dinner on a rooftop in Pisa. It's just it's unreal experiences that people probably wouldn't have had, or, shooting beautiful models, at a chateau in France. It's just, it's, I guess the retreat we wish we could go on.
Yep.
And so that's kind of why we created them. And that kind of is part of our sort of education side where we, speak and have some courses and that kind of thing, which we're super passionate about. It's really we kind of feel with educating, it's our responsibility to give other photographers what we've gotten from this industry, and we kind of feel like we have to pass that on and give others the chance to live this really cool life.
Yeah, it's given us a lot of flexibility, and I don't take it for granted. I mean, I've been very, very lucky for, we have a 10-year-old, and it's only this year really that he's walked to school on his own. I've literally seen him and been home for him all the way through when he was a baby, and then into, he's starting to walk, and kindergarten, and then elementary school. Kim and I have been able to walk him to school every morning and then go and pick him up after school. And I don't know how many dads have that. But the photography industry has given us as parents a lot of time with family, and family's the most important thing to us. And so it's allowed us to have that. And as Kim says, we feel it's a responsibility to help others have what we've had, because it's been so cool. I've loved growing up with my 10-year-old and doing all of the things that I can with him because I was able to.
Yeah, being able to teach others how you've built a successful business, what's been working well for you, and then also to allow you both to have that work-life balance and have that time with family is it's a beautiful thing to be able to give that back to other people.
Yeah,
Totally.
Sweet.
It's special.
And then we've also just launched a headshot business too.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
so we've
in our spare time, we pulled out.
We're hang on.
Pulled out the headshot and corporate stuff from our traditional photography because it was just super getting lost in all the wedding stuff, and just kind of giving it its own space on its own. So, I mean, we did just launch the website, and we got our first inquiry through that website. So we were like, ooh, this is exciting. Nice. So someone found it, and that. So I feel like we're on the right track.
And we've been able to do it because our workflows have been so efficient.
Well, let's dig into that. The second thing going well in your entire workflow, allowing you to open another brand, presence, niche of headshots and things like that. What is another thing going really well in your workflows to allow this to happen?
I'd say for us is having the right tools in place to be able to kind of it's almost like you put the right tools in place and you investigate and you figure out what you need and put this system in place. And it's you don't have to think about it again because it just becomes part of the normal. And it's just, it's getting someone to clean your house, it's it just takes the stress away of every time you walk by the washroom and you're like, oh God, when's the last time I cleaned that? Now, it's really you have these great processes in place. You're not thinking should I do this? It's just it becomes a recipe that
I think it's finding the right softwares that are, like you were mentioning, niches with regards to photography. There's niches with, software companies too.
Yes.
And it's finding the right ones that do the things really, really well. And then taking those on board and having a suite of software that you use that makes your life a lot easier. Because photography and this business, it can be very, very labor intensive, and you can spend an awful amount of time, to and fro-ing with clients, time in front of the computer, doing all of that sort of stuff. And then you've also got the shooting bit on top of that. So, and it's the shooting bit that makes the money, but a lot of photographers spend more of their time not out shooting, but in front of a computer. So finding the right software that works for us and utilizing that to the best of its ability has helped us to be able to do all the things that we do, from the weddings to the pop-ups to the retreats to the headshots and all of that sort of stuff. So
I want to give an example because you said something really important. It's finding the right tool for the niche, right? And in some cases, right? So as I mentioned earlier, how there could be some overlaps between different niches, right? If like you're using CloudSpot, for example, that could work for all of the niches that you're doing. However, in some brands, if somebody's using CloudSpot for portrait work, for example, or they're using it for weddings or whatever it might be, but then when it's the slower season for weddings, they're also doing school portraits or sport portraits for like school sport teams. CloudSpot, while it's great, may not be the ideal when there's a photo day or alternatives that are actually designed for school and sport.
Right.
Where they have, specific tools for that. So finding the right tool for your niche, like you said, very important.
We're definitely find the best at your particular thing and not looking for one program that can do everything. Because in general, it's sort of like humans, right? It's like no one is going to be, this jack of all trades and, is going to be really great at one. We look for, the best that we can find at AI editing. That's Imagen. We look at how response times and helpfulness and all of that with the companies that we use, because that's also, important. But, we have 17 Hats as our CRM. We have ConvertKit right now is our emails. But we try to get the best of who's doing what in their own niche, because I think that makes a difference to not try to kind of blanket one thing, but who can help us and be the most efficient in what we need it for. And then if it's another product that does something else to the best, we would like to work with the best, I think and that helps us to stay on the cutting edge, and it helps us to kind of, those companies are working their niche unbelievably and moving so quickly and improving all the time. So if you looked at kind of research and development of one company trying to do everything, they just can't.
Right.
They can't improve everything, and they can't kind of keep current and everything like that. So that's how we kind of choose kind of who the partners are for us is who's doing the best job that we can give our clients.
Yeah, we want companies that specialize in software, because we know that that's their focus. So they do it really, really, really well. You've got some that, cover a lot of different aspects, and they do okay. But for us, okay is not good enough. We want to use the companies that do things really, 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 really well. So we're not averse to using different software for different things, because it just works for us.
Yeah. You mentioned a little earlier ago that for the Santa sessions, you're doing same day IPS and print sales, which of course, having Imagen to knock out the editing for you real fast, having CloudSpot to sell images, really useful. Smart albums, right? So you're using smart albums. Are you also doing same day IPS and sales for albums on the pop-up weddings?
We're not same day, but so we have different packages levels for our pop-ups. So we have like kind of a starter package that is just the experience, and then they'll choose 20 images. Generally, like our galleries for a pop-up wedding are, I'd say, around 200 or so. So the next level includes the gallery. And so we kind of try to sort of, in a way, like pre-IPS them to sell the gallery. And then with the standard ones, we'll do a virtual IPS session where they see the full gallery that Gary's done. And most of the time then we'll upgrade to, it's very hard to call a wedding that was an hour or so, like a ceremony, family photos. It's hard to get to 20. So we have some kind of smaller packages, add 10, add 20, add albums, that kind of thing for them. And then the full gallery people, they'll get other options for like albums and that kind of thing. So we're virtual with a lot of them because we go kind of from our house sort of in like a hour and a half radius in Ontario. So they're not really local to us generally. So virtual works well for that. And I can kind of do it in my pajamas if I need to. So like that's kind of our divide.
What percentage of the time are you actually doing in your pajamas?
Like bottom half, like a lot. Yeah. Leggings.
Is she day pajamas?
I would say like day. Yeah. We call them our day pajamas.
Day pajamas.
Of
nice.
like, tracky bottoms or leggings.
Anything with
I'd
an
say
elasticated waist.
Yeah. A good percentage are happening in that in my office. Yeah. And that's kind of our divide too is, Gary is the gear guy. He knows everything about photography and everything like that. He does the editing. He'll do the client meetings for our traditional weddings. Pop-up stuff is generally me, except for obviously the exception of photography. But I'll do all of our sales sessions for all of them. So with pop-ups, because there's a big volume, doing it virtual where we can kind of stock the sessions is a lot easier for us. We can do them kind of when people get home and they might have kids and they're busy and, they don't need to come anywhere. So that works. Obviously, it's in line with, the client experience that they each get. The traditional weddings get,
a lot more
way more hand holding, lots more in-person time, lots more babying. And then the pop-ups, they want something simple and they want it done for them. They don't want the questions. They're, we have a lot that's automated for them. We have a guide that they get that reminds them of all the dates, and we have a lot of emails that go out. But generally for them, it's like a 10-minute detail phone call 30 days before their wedding. And that's the only time. Everything else is email. So for that brand, it's very efficient. For the other, it's obviously a completely different workflow. This one
You inspired another question before we move into the last topic. When you market the pop-up weddings, are you marketing them closer to a styled photo session, but wedding themed, or are you marketing it more like an elopement?
It's marketed as a stress-free wedding. It's their wedding. It's not like they will come fully dressed up. They will have a bridesmaid. Like they will, for them, it's their wedding. It's just they've given us control. We don't overlap couples, so they don't see each other. So it's really for that, for as far as they're concerned, it's a packaged wedding experience that they just don't have to do. So for them, it's definitely more about the wedding than the I guess the theme or whatever. They do we do like an inspo board for each one. They'll all be different so that they can kind of know what they're walking into. I wouldn't want to just be like, surprise, it's a Barbie wedding. You know what I mean? I can imagine somebody walking into that. They need to know it's their vibe.
I mean, it's definitely not a replacement for the people that want the 50, 100, 200, 300 person wedding. A lot of the couples are older. Maybe it's a second time around, or we do have some younger ones that just say, we didn't want to spend X on a wedding. We wanted to
I mean,
Want them to have a
there's
deposit
like
on a house.
introverts that don't want to be around a million people.
Yeah.
There's overbearing moms that want to invite everyone plus the kitchen sink, and this gives them the limit that they can kind of stick with, and it's not their fault. You know, it's so many more. It's generally like, and we survey our couples a lot to find out like, why are you booking? You know, what are you doing? Why are you looking at this as an option? And budget is generally like third or fourth on the list. So the biggest thing for them is that it's stress-free. They're not really interested in wedding planning. They're basically co-opting their day with other people that they'll never meet.
Right.
You know, and so they're paying, you know, we're doing big florals. All of our vendors that we use are like top quality, that kind of thing. And everyone's getting paid because they're just paying for a small portion. But then when you spread it out over the amount of couples, everyone's getting paid what they should be paid to be there. Like, so it's a kind of an interesting way, but when we're marketing pop-ups, there's only a limited number of spots. There's one date in whatever location that we're going to be in. And so that scarcity, selling feature is really there with that. So
They
that's
love it,
kind
though.
of what
they
drives them.
absolutely love it. I tend to finish the session with them and then tell them what the next steps are once we've done their photo session. And all of them say, oh my God, this has been just the greatest experience. It's been so hassle-free. We've loved it.
Yeah.
It's great. Can you give Kim a big hug for us? Because she just made it so easy. It was just, we turn up with our license and we get married and now we're off to lunch with everyone that came, or they're having a party in the evening, and so it's just great.
You'll never cannibalize the traditional weddings for us, right? Like the person that wants to book a pop-up wedding is never going to be that person. And the person who wanted that 300-person big Italian wedding is never going to, never in a million years would giving up that level of control be what they'll be into. Yeah. So it's just giving something to people where they didn't have a place. There just wasn't an option. Like they just, was it going to City Hall? And
well, that was it. The option was City Hall, and that's
just
not particularly nice.
Exciting, and it's not like customized, and they don't feel like they're being thought of, or you're having to shell out whatever, and people's money and how much they have for weddings is really evolving, and we're not in that boomer generation anymore where they were faithfully putting aside 40 grand for their daughter's wedding. These are a lot of couples are paying for their own stuff. So it's do I want a house, do I want this, we want to be married, and for some people the priority is other things, but we can still give this like really awesome experience for them where they don't feel like they skimped out. They feel like they're still like they had a wedding. Like they had all the wedding
things. They go all
things.
out. They go full hair, full makeup, custom suits for the guys, proper the wedding dress for the girls. They can have the bridesmaids and groomsmen and all of that sort of thing. So it's literally
petite.
It's just it's just a condensed wedding for a limited number of people over a certain time period. And
a lot of the reasons of why your clients book these is the exact reason my wife and I got married in Mexico.
Yes.
She wanted to do it not in the United States. She wanted to do it in warm Mexico on the beach. But other than that, like, planning was very hands off. We didn't plan a thing until we got there. We checked in. They brought our bags to our room. We didn't even see our room. Then they came and the wedding planner came to get us, and we planned our wedding 2 days before and just picked out color of the cupcakes. We didn't even do a cake, simple. And then it all happened very fast, and it was very easy, very hands-on.
There's so many different style of people that there has to be more than one style of wedding. And every style there's something for everyone, and this is just kind of creating that space for people that want something really cool, don't know how to do it, and we can kind of take really good care of them.
Awesome. So let's dive into the last topic as we wrap this up. You've got a lot going really well in your business, but everybody, no matter how successful everybody is, there's always something that you need to improve on. So what is one thing in your workflow that may not be perfect? You're seeing some issues and you're working towards improving. What is that?
You go first. I've got one.
I will say that I am a serial creator, and so sometimes the challenge is you get a really great idea and you want to kind of maybe devote some time to it, or you want to kind of see what a framework looks like. And I think some of the challenge for me sometimes is saying no to things, is saying, no, and it's myself. It's not like I can say no to clients that are a bad fit, and we're way past that point of finding our people, and that I'm more than happy to say no to red flags and all of that. But for me, I think it's like the excitement is the creation. And so for me, I've had to kind of really put in place sort of like a framework that I have to kind of like evaluate a new idea, and it has to be able to outperform something else we're doing if it's taking the space. And in the same time, it's being able to kill other ideas that aren't working. So there's, things in our business that we don't have time for, they're not performing, and, you can let an idea die and say goodbye to it, which is also, it's difficult when you're an entrepreneur. Everything is like so close to you and that creating. So I find my balancing like new ideas with maintaining old, like current things that are performing well, because it's just maintenance is not as fun, but obviously it's necessary. I think that's probably why with pop-ups is really helpful for me, because I can kind of be creative. Kind of each pop-up looks different, and with our retreats, that's a lot of creative space for me that kind of fulfills that for right now, and I don't feel pulled to we drag Gary down another road of like, guess what we're doing.
Well, literally, that's what I was going to say was reining Kim in. That's the one. It's like she's always, hey, it's when she looks at you and she goes, I've been thinking. And I'm like, no, my eyes go like this. And I'm like, no more thinking, Kim. We're doing enough.
Stop thinking.
Stop thinking. Let's just focus on what we're doing. So enough's enough. But I mean, anything, like you said, she if she's coming up with ideas, she's thought it all the way through. It's not just this is off the cuff and we should do this. And then let's just figure out what's happened. She's looked at it, and then she's researched it, and then by the time she says, I've been thinking, she's already like 80% of the way there.
Yeah. If I've been thinking, the pitch is really confident.
Yeah.
Like there's so many ideas like I haven't brought to the table because I've like done the due diligence on them, and it just didn't feel like it could work all the way as much as I would want it to. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I didn't think I was going to be a spreadsheet girl growing up because I was very like art school and everything like that. Uh-huh. But I'm like a super spreadsheet girl. So I will, like, I have so many like formulas and everything that I'll put an idea through. And that framework for us is kind of, we put every single one of our business ideas through the same scrutiny and through the same system to make sure that, not only is the idea going to work itself, but also it's going to be profitable. It's going to be worth our time. We're making like what to us is the appropriate amount that we should be making on that much time. And that's kind of where all of our ideas start. But I think it's saying goodbye to not ideas that you just could never get to, and understanding like we also need a life, and we don't want to work all the time. We want to like have margaritas on a Tuesday, like, all the Monday, things that just make us who we are. Monday. So, or Monday, like, that's our weekend. Yeah. So I'd say balancing, I think that's our balance really.
And I think for me, I deal with the images a lot more than Kim. It's, I shoot the weddings, then I load 10,000 images on the computer from a pop-up wedding day. And then what I've been learning to do, and this comes back to you guys and introducing the culling to a specific number, that really helps, because I was a bit averse previously to using the culling software, because it would pick too many, and then I would have to go through and review them and then take some out, because it was, I don't know, it could pick 400 from a pop-up wedding, and that's too much. So then I would have to go. So then it would be, well, if I'm doing that, I may as well I know what I'm looking for. I can go through them myself fairly quickly. Whereas now being able to set a target of the number of images that I want, that's really helped. And I'm not being funny, it does free up a lot of time. Like culling was the one thing that previously I was still manually doing myself. Edits are fantastic. But I think for me, that's probably the one thing that I could do a little bit more, is just the culling side of things. I mean, it can be mind-numbingly boring to look through seven pop-up wedding days where you've shot very, very similar things, and so you're picking very, very similar images from all of the wedding days. Whereas now I can kind of like relinquish a bit of that responsibility to a bit of software.
It's really good. It's really good. To wrap things up, this is the last episode of season 4 of the podcast. And traditionally in 4 seasons, we take a break for just over a month before we bring in the new season. So as we approach the new year, I would love to hear from you some advice for any photographer that is listening to this, that is watching this, that would love to find a way to make more time for their family for the new year. What one nugget of advice would you give to that photographer or that couple to try somehow to give themselves more time for the new year with their families?
I have two.
Okay.
If that's okay.
All right.
Go for it.
One is, it's not sexy, but it's spreadsheet related, is like figuring out what your actual numbers are. It's very rare that we're in a room with photographers who know how much it costs to run their business, how they can get to the salary they want, and how many shoots it takes to get there. And if you can know your numbers, it's just gonna take the pressure off. And then knowing, in order to hit my goal, I need 5 family sessions. You can then target your marketing. You're spending less time literally on everything, because you're not just doing this big scattergun approach. And so if you have downtime coming up, 100%, that is where every photographer should start, and revisit it if you haven't. The other thing that we've done going into a year is we will X out every long weekend. So long weekends are completely out of bounds. We're not allowed to book anything on them. And in Canada, we have a long weekend every single month through the summer. So we X out and completely black out of our schedule every long weekend, because we were going through weddings and, wedding season. And then we're like, you get to December and you're like, what the hell just happened? Like, where's my family? And we needed that kind of light at the end of the tunnel every once in a while to be able to feel like we were connected, and to feel like some downtime, and to feel like we got a chance to see our kids and plan things, because sometimes you just can't even plan anything. And so that's what we did. I know it's obviously a luxury that we could be able to do that, but even if there's a Sunday or something like that you just completely X out. You're not going to open your laptop. You're not going to, and you're not going to go, oh shoot, I think I can just nip down to the office and do whatever. If there's a couple days, kind of pace them out and just kind of X some things out of your calendar and give that back to yourself. I think it's one of the best things that we've done, and we've done it for a couple of years, and it's made such a difference to not feel,
Yeah.
you know, like you're dreading.
I think
what
if
you're
you
doing.
if you're working for yourself, you can work all the time, and so there's always something you can be doing. And you know, your family grows up really really quick. I mean, Kim took our 17-year-old for his first university visit yesterday,
Oh boy.
and
Oh my
it's
God,
just like it's just like, oh my God, like
I'm gonna
literally,
be a horrible mess.
where did that time go? That's, you know, it's flown by. And so putting those little breaks from your work in place to devote that time to family, it's not only important for us as parents, it's also important for the kids too, because they know, like most of the Saturdays we're away, like they're in school during the week, and then Saturday we're not home because we're pop-up in or we're full wedding in, and that's all summer, and the summer's when they're home the most. And so to be able to devote that weekend to just family, it's important for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. For me, what I would suggest is just embrace technology. I still talk to some photographers, and I see in Facebook groups photographers that are still clinging on to everything and unwilling to let it go. And if they just decide to let it go, or you know, embrace some of the niche software that we've already spoken about, it will free up so much of their time. I mean, I think this is the first year. Sorry, this is the first year from doing all the pop-up weddings, all the normal weddings that we've got to this time of the year, and I'm pretty much like I'm 95% up to date with everything, and I'm not looking at a huge to-do list because embracing all of the software out there that helps us do the things that we do has given me that ability to say, I'm not going to work today. You know, I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna watch every game of the World Series that I'm not worried about. I should be downstairs in front of my computer because most of it's done. I've literally just a few little tweaks to do, and that's the whole 100% caught up. And that's going into a new year, and you don't have any lag from the previous year. That's amazing. Yeah. So embracing what's out there.
It's so easy as like solopreneurs to be on this little island by yourself, and you think that, you know, I see it all the time. Like, you think that you have to reinvent the wheel, and it's like, people have the wheel. Like, use the wheel. Like,
the wheel exists.
Literally, the wheel is right in front of you. You just have to like open
Let
yourself up and think, I don't know the best way to do this. Surely someone out there has figured this out and done it, and try to learn and be open and just try to learn from others. I think and I think that is always helpful.
Yep.
Well said.
I think that's
well said. I love it. Thank you both for sitting down with me and chatting
welcome.
about all this. I know that a lot, the listeners are going to be very, very inspired by this conversation and by the fact that with everything going on, you've got your stuff in place to give yourself all that extra time to spend with families, to spend with each other. And it's fantastic. It really is fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
You have been listening to the Workflows Photography Podcast. To hear more from Workflows, to learn more about our guest, and for an exclusive offer for Workflows listeners, please go to workflowspodcast.com. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.